Welcome back to the Post Credits Podcast, where we talk about movies after the credits roll. My name is Jesse.
My name is Max.
And I'm Logan.
And today we are continuing our weekly spoiler review series with a review of new Scott Derrickson horror sequel, Black Phone 2.
Yes, this one's been long in the waiting, because the last one came out, 2021, 2022, something like that?
It premiered in Festival 2021 and then premiered in theaters 2022, which gives us the very, very fun release date question of what year did the movie actually come out.
Yeah.
How'd you guys hear about this movie?
Well, I guess when we watched the first Black Phone together.
Another one you were dry down
Another one.
Yeah, so we have a history in these weekly spoiler reviews of kind of dragging Logan around to whatever movie we happen to be watching.
Yeah, that part is true.
And so because this was a sequel, we thought it would be nice, because I hadn't seen the first Black Phone and Logan hadn't seen the first Black Phone. So all three of us saw the Black Phone before going to see Black Phone 2.
Yeah.
This isn't like the Tron episode where none of us had really seen any of the movies, except me.
Yeah. I guess for me, I heard about the Black Phone actually when it first came out. I started working at AMC back when I think it was July of 2022, and so this movie I think it was in the second or third weekend. And actually, fun fact that this was the first ever movie ticket I ever sold to somebody. Was a couple that was seeing the Black Phone, and ever since then I kind of watched it as in mind. I was just like, what if the movie was actually kind of good? And so I sat down and I watched it, and I really enjoyed it for the time. And I was someone that was visibly angry at the fact that they were doing a sequel. And we'll get into more why later, but...
Yeah. I heard of this movie actually when we did our most anticipated. I didn't have it on my list. Max had it on his at the very, very bottom. It wasn't even in his top 25. It was in his, honorable mentions. And it was the last one he mentioned.
Yeah, it was the bottom of my honorable mentions. It's just I love the Black Phone a lot. But it's one that's just I'll check it out just because it's the same people that are doing it, but it's one that's just I didn't know. It was just I don't know if this works as a sequel. Right. So does it work as a sequel? That's where we're about to get into.
Right, and let's discuss briefly the first Black Phone so that people understand why we're so concerned about it having a sequel.
Yeah.
First Black Phone is a very generic kidnapping thriller. It basically takes a pretty simple premise of this kid named Finney Blake, played by Mason Thames, gets kidnapped by the Grabber, some amateur magician, sadistic, crazy person played by Ethan Hawke. The Grabber keeps Finney in his basement where there's a phone that happens to be black. It doesn't work, but it rings, and Finney gets calls from the previous victims of the Grabber. All these dead kids are calling him to give him advice and whatnot.
Yeah. And just small spoiler, if you haven't seen the Black Phone, I would say mute this, silence it, whatever you have to do. But the end of that movie involves, Mason Thames' character, after receiving many phone calls, killing Ethan Hawke's character of the Grabber. And it's one that's just it ends so definitively that the idea of a sequel when it was announced is just they kill the Grabber, the main antagonist essentially dies. And so it's how do you build on that with a sequel?
Right.
Well...
The answer is kind of obvious, because the Black Phone as a plot device is intended to bring back characters from the dead. So in this movie, he comes back through the Black Phone. It's kind of obvious.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the Black Phone was, I want to say, popular when it came out.
Oh, yeah.
Based on how popular the Grabber has been. He just got added to Fortnite. He is reportedly, according to the Google Trends search, he was in the top 15 most popular Halloween costumes this year. The Grabber is a modern horror icon for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. And I was kind of shocked by that. The first one is just the mask was so distinct, obviously the different expressions that were on it. And also Ethan Hawke's just a great actor when it comes to that character. And so it's just the idea of them doing a follow-up. This is essentially one of the new original horror franchises. Obviously the first Black Phone was one that was based off of a short story, but now that there's a sequel to it, it's kind of starting itself as a modern
just
horror
its own
franchise.
thing.
Yeah, just its own thing. Yeah.
Which I, for one, am kind of welcoming, but not as a whole 50-year franchise. Just, I think For what this second movie was, I'm probably going to disagree with some people here. I think for some...
Well, there's two people you could disagree with right here.
Exactly. So I think for some parts it was necessary to explain maybe some questions that were left unanswered, but the whole plot, like as a whole, with the grabber coming back from the dead, I'd agree that it was unnecessary, but it wasn't like, shoot, I can't figure out the word.
I think that it wasn't unwelcome, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Guess we should dive into the second one then.
Yeah, I think that coming at a sequel from the idea of it being unnecessary is not a very good way to look at a sequel.
Yeah.
Terminator 2 was unnecessary, but it's a better movie. So it's just like, it's hard to say, like, what's necessary dictates what's good, or that, like, a sequel shouldn't happen. This is what Scott Derrickson is doing. This is his 9th standalone feature film. I say standalone because he directed a short in VHS 94, I think?
Yeah, the VHS series. So they always get
Yeah.
people coming and going to direct shorts for that.
VHS series, found footage horror anthology series. So the fact that he's a credited director doesn't mean that he made the movie. So this is his 9th.
Yeah.
Black Phone 2 is his 9th. This is what he's doing. Whether or not you want to say that he should be doing this is not what I'm interested in. I'm more interested in it.
Yeah. So I guess with that regard, I guess like walking out, leaving the theater, what were your guys' initial, I guess, reactions to this one?
I thought if I wouldn't have seen the first one, I would have thought this was the best horror film that I've seen all year. But in context of it being a sequel, it kind of lowers my reaction to it. But it was still, cinematography-wise, acting-wise, story-wise, like as its own thing, it was incredible.
Yeah. As for me, walking out, I have had a very complicated relationship with this movie ever since I saw it last week. And it's one that's just like leaving the theater, I was very disappointed in some of the choices that they made. But upon reflection, this is one Scott Derrickson, I think, is like a modern master of horror. Like he knows how to bring certain sequences to life. He's great at incorporating like vintage style filmmaking along with modern techniques, to where you can see in like the dream sequences, which I'm sure we'll dive more into, like what those mean. He's able to bring a lot of it. Gave me a lot of Sinister meets Nightmare on Elm Street, which is Nightmare on Elm Street is a franchise I'm a huge fan of. Now that I've processed all my thoughts for this podcast, this is a movie I think is good. It didn't wow me. It didn't blow me away. I don't think it's one of the best horror films of the year. But it's one that's just like, I think it's good. There's some things that bug me. I'm sure we'll talk about them a little bit later. But it's one that's just like, I don't see the masterpiece that some people make it out to be, but I also don't see the disaster that some people that absolutely love the first one see. Because it's one that I am a big fan of the Black Phone, and part of the reason for that is because it is such a self-contained story. It has a clear beginning, clear middle, clear end. And this one attempts to expand the lore in some ways that leaving the theater I was a little bit mixed on. But upon thinking about it more, those have kind of become the quieter side. But as someone that loves, Nightmare on Elm Street and has seen some of those dream sequences done, it's one that's just like, I think it's very well done. Scott Derrickson's a great director. Everybody who's acting is doing a great job. It didn't blow me away necessarily.
I'm the guy saying that it's a masterpiece. This movie blowed me away. This movie wowed me. I think it's one of the best horror movies of the year. The only horror movie I think is actually better than this movie that came out this year is Sinners, which is, as of right now, my favorite movie of the year.
Yeah, mine too.
And I also don't consider The Long Walk a horror movie, which is one of the ones that would rival it in theory. But I think that this is excellent. I was stunned walking out of the theater as to just how good this was. And I'll discuss why I think it works not only as its own movie, but also as a sequel to The Black Phone when we discuss the plot. So let's discuss the plot, shall we?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This movie takes place 4 years after the first one. The first one took place in 1978. This one takes place in 1982. Finney is now 17. His sister Gwen, who has these strange prophetic dreams that played a role in the first movie, is 13 years old. Gwen is seemingly romantically interested in this kid named Ernesto, who is the brother of a kid named Robin from the first movie, who happened to be Finney's best friend, also one of the grabber's victims. And Gwen starts getting her dreams again. So she dreamt about Finney and about all the other kids being kept in the grabber's home and help the police locate exactly where the grabber's home was in the first movie. Now she's getting dreams of a winter camp in the mountains of Colorado called Camp Alpine Lake. And what we learn about Camp Alpine Lake is that Gwen and Finney's mother, who is briefly mentioned as also having had those prophetic dreams, worked there around, like, I think it was the 50s, 57 or something in the movie. That's like when she worked there. So Gwen and Finney and Ernesto, they all go to Camp Alpine Lake to like get to the bottom of this. Gwen's dreams mostly revolve around these 3 kids that have names that I do not remember, being trapped under the ice and carving letters into the underside of the ice. Her mother has had similar dreams, except she carved numbers in, and those numbers became, like, it was 7 numbers. That was a phone number. She used the black phone that's at the winter camp. There's a phone booth that doesn't work at the winter camp. She uses that phone to call Gwen in the future, right? So the opening scene is their mother calling someone that we don't know.
Yeah. It was done really well, especially like when you first watch the movie, you're like, well, who is this girl? What is going on? And then it kicks into an excellent opening credit montage of like old footage. Great stuff. Like it really, it gave me Sinister vibes. Scott Derrickson, obviously, you can tell his hand was in that.
Kind of mimic the first film, like
like very much like that.
Very
kind of
much,
thing.
And even after the whole credit sequence in the beginning, you have Finn beating up the kid. Which really is a role reversal of the first movie. You see Finn, I guess, as a witness to a fight that happens in the first movie, pretty much exactly like how it is here. And it kind of shows like how Finn has grew to be more of a fighter. And it's good continuity, I think. Good character growth to build off of.
Yeah. I mean, even speaking of character growth, this is Gwen's story. This is much more of Gwen's story. Like, the last one was really about, more about Finn. They do stuff with him that was a really powerful scene we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
And it's one that's just like, this is more so about Gwen. Like, obviously, like, I thought she had a great role in the first one. And it's one that's just like, whenever someone brought up, what are the best performances from the original Black Phone? Like, obviously Ethan Hawke, and it was Mason Thames, and also the girl that played Gwen. I also thought was
Madeline
great.
McGraw.
Madeline McGraw, yeah, that's her name. And she's great in this one. Like, you really get to see her front and center. Obviously, she's older and a lot more mature than she was in the first one. And it's where, like, the journey she goes on, I thought was just really well done.
I think also, speaking of character growth, we see the dad played by Jeremy Davies. Like, in the first movie, he was like an alcoholic that like beat his kids and stuff.
Yeah.
So in this one, we see that he has been off the alcohol for like almost 3
years. I mean, they kind of
years.
hinted that at the end, where it's like when you see his reaction when Finney comes back, it's just like he's such an alcoholic, but one of his kids go missing, especially after what happened to their mom.
It's just like he
great
returns continuity.
Home. You see him.
In the early stages of the movie, he says that he's getting his 3-year chip, presumably from an AA organization. Yeah. So, like, he has been working towards it. What I think is interesting that they set up early on in this movie is that Finn is now addicted to weed.
Yeah.
He's always smoking and staying up. There's actually a scene very early on which mimics a scene from the first movie. He's outside smoking and he sees the grabber in front of him. In the first movie, the first thing that he says when he gets thrown in the grabber's basement is, if you try to touch me, I'll scratch your face.
Yeah.
And then Ethan Hawke
does the
face. It's an audio.
It's great.
It's such iconic.
This is an audio podcast.
It's such a good opening.
Oh my god!
If you look up like a clip or an image from the Black Phone, most likely you'll see
what the hands thing is that I'm doing right now. You can't see. You know exactly what.
Almost fanning himself with his hands, presenting his face, which is very clearly covered by a mask.
Yeah, it's become more of an iconic mask, especially with the different expressions. One smile, one's a frowny face, one everyone's just a blank expression.
Mhm.
They kind of use that a little bit in the second
a
one.
little bit, although it's less of a reveal in this one. In the first one, there was a big reveal in which the grabber asks Finney, "What's your name?" And he says,
Oh, I love that part.
Taylor or something. I think he says
Taylor.
Taylor, and then the grabber kind of steps out of the darkness to reveal that he's frowning because he knows that Finney is lying.
And
to
it's
him.
framed in a way it's just like you see just the shadow of his head.
Yeah.
Talking to him.
It's genius, and I think that that opening scene really establishes what Finney is doing now with his life, which is he's turned to drugs to try to escape the trauma of having been locked in a basement for like a month.
Yeah.
It's like reasonable, totally reasonable. So yeah, like we're getting kind of the sense of where all these characters are now 4 years later. Scott Derrickson basically establishes it right away that it seems like Gwen is kind of relapsing into dreams. It feels like she hasn't had them for very often.
Yeah,
And
which you could see the panic on her face, especially
Right.
like when she first has them. And the film does it in such a way to where it's just like when it's filmed almost like standardly, and then it switches to like this like almost like VHS tape style.
Yeah.
Like
To where like it
imagine-
switches between styles of filmmaking to where it's just like when she wakes up in a dream, you can tell it's a dream, but it's also that's just like she's almost like slipping from her own reality.
Yeah, and they use the dream sequence, sleepwalking, whatever you want to call it, so much. And I think the way they did it was so well
Yeah,
visually. Like, just imagine
it's
it's
great.
less of like a VHS feel, and I think more a dream feel in the
A little
most
bit, yeah.
basic sense of the word. It's blurry, it's noisy, like visually noisy,
Right.
and it just feels like you're in a dream.
Yeah, great execution of
It's
the whole
such
thing. too.
great execution. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's like there's like noise added, and you can tell it's a dream, and they even play with that later on where you see the noise actively fading away as
Or
Gwen
even
starts to
fading
wake
in.
up, and also fading in when she starts to go to sleep. It's frankly genius. I love it.
And from a horror movie perspective, like we get the sense, we even get some of the jump scares, which were really effective in those dream sequences. So the next time you see the noise come on and the blurriness in the dream sequence, that makes you feel so much tension, and it works so well from a horror aspect. The dream sequences are probably my favorite
Yeah.
in this whole movie.
Fair enough. It's in one of Gwen's first dream sequences where she manages to walk her way back to where the grabber has been living. We learn that nobody's living there anymore, and the basement is covered in graffiti. It says things like the grabber burns in hell, and like we hate the grabber. And all of
Foreshadowing.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, foreshadowing.
Ironic foreshadowing.
Yeah, a little bit.
Burns.
She picks up the black phone in her dream. The black phone isn't there. At the end of the first movie, Finney takes the black phone off of the wire, fills it with dirt, and uses it
to
beat
kill the grabber. Yeah.
the grabber.
Eventually chokes him to death. I
Yeah,
think
with
that's-
the wire.
Yeah,
hangs
Yeah,
him.
you know the whole step forward, step back, and swing.
Yep. Step forward, step back, swing. Step forward, step back, swing. Gwen uses the black phone in her dream. We learn that the person that her mother was calling in the opening scene was her from the future.
Yeah.
And it drives Finney, Gwen, and Ernesto, who really, really wants to be with Gwen.
Yeah.
Uh,
They make it very apparent, especially
very
in the way.
clear. He buys her Duran Duran tickets.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, they made it very clear also that they were in the 80s.
yeah.
The,
very
the
clear.
amount of the amount of slang in like a 30-second period that Gwen spits out when talking about Duran Duran and that's radical. Oh, that's
Yeah.
choice.
Choice.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Even just seeing later on, where like
That's
Ernesto's in the same bed as her, and then like Finney's just in the corner, just like I can hear you guys like loud and
yeah,
clear.
yeah. They're about to kiss. It's
yeah.
not subtle in the
Yeah.
slightest. This is not a rom-com. Basically, they go to Camp Alpine Lake. They get trapped there because of the snow. Like, it's snowing. There's like a blizzard. It's all in Colorado, which I don't think was ever made clear. But this takes place in Colorado. Alpine Lakes is in Colorado. And they go up and it snows. And I guess kids aren't coming because of the snow. Like, they had to close down that winter because the snow was too much. So basically, we just have these characters that are stuck in the camp. that can't leave, and then also nothing's going to happen until they get to leave. So basically, they're stuck there for like a week. Now the movie begins, you know?
Yeah.
Very obvious setup, but it works for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it worked. I was a little bit like on the fence. Like once it started kicking in, I was like, okay, I see where this is going on. And especially like
Right.
as the things revealed on later on in the movie, I got a sense of what was going on.
Like when I say obvious, not like a bad kind, but
Mhm.
just you know what you're in for when
yeah.
they say, "Oh, you're stuck in
Right.
here."
I think my biggest concern, as of right now, like as of this point in the movie, was that the setup was exactly the same as the first.
Almost, yeah.
Mm.
It was a little bit kind of like that. Where like
Um,
it's in the same template, not necessarily like exact same location thing. It's just like it's essentially like borrowing from a
Same
template.
structure.
Yeah, like same like template.
Yeah, it's just with more characters now. Now we have 3 characters stuck in this place, which we soon learn is the realm of the Grabber.
Yeah.
This is where he kind of lives. This is where he resides now in the afterlife.
It's where they make it clear later on in the movie that that's essentially where he started. You know,
Right.
killing people was
Yeah.
at that camp.
Right. And
Because
so
he was a camp counselor, right?
he was a maintenance guy.
Yeah, it was a
Maintenance
maintenance guy. Yeah.
And so what we are in this place. There's like a new payphone that is black that doesn't work, but we know that someone's gonna call through that phone. A lot of the information that we get about the people isn't through the phone anymore. It's through Gwen's dreams.
Yeah.
Which a lot gorier and more visually a lot more
Mm-hmm.
overt than the first movie. Like the first, they sort of just implied that the kids were dead and that he killed them and stuff.
Right.
They show it in the dreams. Like
Yeah.
it is very brutal. Like
There's
kids,
There's
like-
one kid that was like drawn and quartered. There's one kid that was roasted alive in an oven. And
Yeah,
there's
and
one
especially
kid-
like one of the scenes like they're in a dream and then he sits
You
up and he
see
just
that.
turns like full
Yeah.
like Toy Story when you see like the fucked up toy. Oops, sorry. when you see like the demented toys and it's just like one of them like cocks their head to the side. That's what it kind of reminded me of there.
Yeah, and there's one kid who had his face sliced in half.
Yeah.
It's like legit scary. It's like good. It's good gore. It's good gore.
Yeah.
yeah, I like that approach.
Yeah. So there's a sleepwalking scene in the camp. Like they have to have like opposite housings situations, like based on gender. So Gwen is sleeping in a different cabin than not Armando. Armando, by the way, is the camp.
Ernesto.
Yeah, Ernesto is the one I meant to talk about, but Armando is a different character in the movie.
Yeah.
Who is the camp director?
Yeah,
slash
he's like
groundskeeper.
the guy that's in charge. Of
Yeah,
the whole
he's
place.
in charge. He is important, and I forgot to mention him. So Armando is important, but Ernesto is the kid who's sleeping in the same cabin as Finney because they're both men. And Gwen, wakes up, starts sleepwalking, or doesn't wake up. She is sleepwalking, thus she's asleep. And that's kind of where she discovers in the woods all these 3 kids. They ran into the woods and were killed by the Grabber, and they're under the ice. They're carving letters. They carve WBH into the ice. She eventually goes and sleeps with the boys, which is a whole thing. It's like this is a very Christian winter camp, and they are very insistent on having separate gender housing, despite the fact that camp is nowhere near in session. Like they're not even having camp, but they need to have these people separated by gender.
I will say they do get as a frequent goer tour of Christian camps in the North Carolina area, they do have the vibe, right?
Yeah, they have the
not
vibe,
like
right?
not like the strictness of it, but like the whole overall visual vibe of it.
The
And
thing-
they do it very well.
Mhm.
They got the dining hall down to a science. Like
Yeah,
the dining hall is perfect. They have the same cups that the camp that I worked at had.
Really?
The same yellow cups. It's
Wow.
like it was like PTSD. is insane.
Those
It's
were
like,
the Christian
were the
summer
cups.
camp / private school cups.
the cups.
Yeah,
Those are the
you
cups.
heard it here for the cups are accurate.
The cups were accurate. 10 out of 10 movie. Sinners doesn't even compare to the cups. The level of cup
Yeah,
accuracy.
yellow.
And
The spin-off Yellow Cups.
The yellow cup.
And I guess to that point,
Mhm.
like I was kind of focusing on the whole Christianity aspect of it, which
Right.
was a little apparent in the first movie. We see Gwen praying to Jesus. And
Yes.
Yeah.
She has a whole bunch of Christian themed trinkets that she takes out and she holds in her hands when she prays, which I think is
And I think it's
it would
interesting.
make sense.
Yeah.
It didn't just feel like left field that they were just going to like a Christian camp, like out
Right.
of nowhere.
Yeah,
especially like tied to their mother. Like it's stuff that's just like, I guess we should probably talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's kind of
We'll get
interesting
there.
the vibe, the Christianity vibe they give to it, but I see it more as less of a theme more than it is just a plot device
Mhm.
to separate the kids and make it not the religion aspect is not a part of the deeper theme. It's more of an aesthetic. That's what
It
I
is.
say.
It is a little bit more of an aesthetic,
Yeah.
and it's an inversion, I think, of what you would expect. It's like it's taking things that we commonly associate with Christianity and sort of inverting them.
Mhm.
There's a lot of like hell is cold instead of hot, and hell is this winter camp that is Christian and God fearing. And there's a scene in which they're discussing how these kids were horribly and brutally murdered at this winter camp, and there's this giant bright white cross-shaped light behind
That
them.
was an amazing shot. I
Yeah,
would say
like-
when Armando is walking and talking on the stage. I forgot when exactly that was, but that's a perfect example of the Christian aesthetic with the giant white cross behind him.
Yeah.
Because it zooms in right into that. That is perfectly in center of the frame.
Yeah. I will admit, I am not a Christian, so I do not.
I'm not either.
Yeah, I don't have that imagery necessarily. If this was a Jewish horror film, I'd be all over it.
Yeah.
And only I can speak from my experience, and my experience is limited. I'm just talking about what's in the movie, and what they're dealing with. I think the most poignant scene is not the use of Jesus as anything that Jesus stands for thematically, but rather in the first movie, she prays for Jesus to have more vision so that she can find Finney. In this movie, she prays to Jesus to stop having visions because they're ruining her life.
Yeah,
Essentially.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, so Gwen goes, sleeps with the boys. Her and Ernesto almost kiss, but then Finney interrupts them because he's an asshole. And
W brother right there.
and essentially, they're very, very upset at Gwen for doing this. It keeps getting brought up that she slept in the boys' cabin. Meanwhile, Finney goes and takes a call in the phone booth with the black phone in it that supposedly doesn't work. And he receives a call in a scene that was very heavily pushed in the trailer. He receives a call from the grabber.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great scene.
Yeah.
It's a very great scene.
It's a really, really good scene.
Let me help you.
Especially the Hello Finney as the kickoff.
Ghostface vibes.
I think when I said what it reminded me of Ethan, I'm talking about Ethan Hawke's performance and specifically here when Finn is calling him from beyond the grave. If you've ever seen or heard, forgot his name, I Have No Mouth But I Must Scream.
Yes.
The audiobook for that from BBC in 2002.
Harlan Ellison.
Harlan Ellison, yeah. He did just imagine if you've heard that performance, it's exactly what Ethan Hawke, I guess, is not imitating, but it's similar to that.
He's
it's
calling
the same
to
vibe.
it.
It's calling to it.
It's an homage almost.
An homage. It's that grittiness. It's that high-pitched grittiness
but
and
very
the
calm.
very calm.
Calm, very smooth. It is very Ghostface, if you're
Yeah.
looking for a different example. Very Ghostface, in which he says, like, he's just very collected, smooth, but he gets angry.
Yeah.
Like, he gets really angry. And
Like
it's,
the calmness, it juxtaposes, like, I really want to hurt you, Finn. Like, hell is cold.
Hell is cool.
And again, that homage to I have no mouth, but I must scream. And
Mm.
specifically in AM's, not hate speech, but the speech about how much he hates the 5 surviving humans.
Yes.
It's very reminiscent of that, and it's pulled off very well, I think.
And I think I Have No Mouth, But I Must Scream is actually a really good parallel to this story because, especially later in the story, we have a lot of discussion about when Gwen starts dreaming. The grabber has the ability to affect people in the real world through the dream world. So whose dream world is it? Is it Gwen's world or is it the grabber's world? That's a question that's discussed much later on. And the call between Finney and the grabber, it is the grabber is walking around the phone booth. The camera's also doing circles around the phone booth. And Finney keeps turning around so that he doesn't look at the grabber.
It confines him.
Oh, it's genius.
Oh my god. Yeah, it makes me sad that I'm the only one that's watching Nightmare on Elm Street. For most people, if you think of a Nightmare on Elm Street, that's almost that's
probably a
parallel
less
for me.
niche and reference that
and a
we
much more accurate, probably.
wanted to use.
It's unfortunate. A Nightmare on Elm Street remains one of probably my biggest horror gap. It's between that and The Shining.
That is actually that's
Yeah.
that's the first horror movie I ever saw.
Really?
It's Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, this first one I ever saw. I told my dad I was like I want to watch the Nightmare on Elm Street for Halloween, and so a couple years ago we did that, and then the rest was history.
I mean,
and a lot of this movie, even the way like the grabber like interacts with Finney, and even like some of the dream sequences, like it's very Nightmare on Elm Street parallel.
To be less niche, it's very Bill Skarsgård-esque performance wise.
just in general.
In general.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I do think Ethan Hawke brings something special, a special flourish to the character.
Yeah.
So yeah, at this point is where the movie kind of starts to diverge from the first in terms of setup, because the main goal of the movie is now to find the kids, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a rescue mission like the first one, but also not really because they're already dead.
Yeah. And it's at the points where it's like they all meet in like the church set area, and like they tell, and like they're basically like telling them like, oh, these dreams are actually happening, and then you get the sense of what the letters and what the numbers actually mean, which made me sad because I predicted that in the movie and I was really disappointed.
I
was like, oh, I wonder if that's the name of the grab, and then they said that and I was like, oh, well, I wish I didn't predict that. I don't want to sound like oh, I got it right on the dot. It was just like when it's just like I had a couple theories. I was like, I wonder if it's the name of the grab, and then they say it, and it's just like, so he's essentially, they call him Wild Bill. He was like what was he like a maintenance guy or something? Yeah, he was a maintenance guy.
He was a maintenance guy. Yeah. The idea is that they have this old picture from the last year before the camp shut down, which was 57 or 58, which is when Armando and Hope, who is the mother of Finney and Gwen, and Wild Bill Hickok, who is the grabber.
Which is the WBH that the kids ran the...
He's the grabber. They were all at camp together, and that's the year in which we now know it to be Wild Bill Hickok killed the kids, and we know that it's Wild Bill Hickok because essentially the kids are all under the ice, but Armando, who's been looking for the kids for a very long time, never bothered to look under the ice because the lake was all the lakes were frozen over when the kids died, so they couldn't possibly get under there, except that Wild Bill Hickok could because he had ice boring equipment to do ice fishing with, so he could make holes in the ice. And whatnot.
And something, I don't know if you guys had this in your notes, but you know Wild Bill Hickok was actually a real person.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, he was an American soldier who lived in the 1800s.
Oh, do you think it was...
That's a very American soldier from the 1800s name.
Yeah, Wild Bill Hickok. Because I looked up Wild Bill Hickok in conversation with the grabber, and it kept coming up Wild Bill Hickok, the American soldier, and I was like, that's interesting that they pulled from that guy.
They actually talk about why he was named Wild Bill Hickok, because apparently his utility belt was always loose, so he like had the appearance of Bill Hickok.
Yeah, I mean that's where he keeps like the axe, which we see kind of in the first movie, more so in this one.
Yeah. I mean, the axe does kind of come back in the head of the grabber's brother.
Yeah.
Which is what he is.
Yeah, a guy that's also named Max, and it made me sad because a guy named Max got killed on screen. But it's also a sense that like they definitely dive into more of who the grabber is in this one. And even more so, like one of the dreams that oh my god, I'm blanking on the what's her name?
Gwen.
Oh my god, sorry. So when Gwen has one of those dreams about like going to see, like she arrives at the grabber's old hideout, and in that she finds out that the grabber's the one who killed her mother.
Right. So there's this weird thing that's like,
because they were both at the same camp together.
There's a weird thing that's like, Gwen usually sleepwalks in her sleep, so they assign a person to look after her.
Yeah.
So that she doesn't do that and she doesn't hurt herself, because she actually sleepwalks in her sleep. She walks all the way to the kitchen where the grabber first attacks her.
And that's supposedly how she always gets in danger.
Very Nightmare on Elm Street kind
Right.
of.
And so there's a scene which she's literally floating around, being thrown about by the grabber while these other people try to get her down and wake her up. She's trying, the grabber's trying to throw her into the oven like the kid that was burnt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the first thing that they're like, oh, that she's seeing the grabber in her dreams, and now they have a person to watch her so that if she gets up, they can stop her from getting up, essentially.
Yeah.
Which I think I liked because all the characters were there to witness it, and I was kind of afraid at that moment this was just gonna become we have to prove this to everyone sort of movie, and that's gonna take up the majority. But I was glad that scene happened when it did.
Yeah, it gave off a scene. It felt like a scene plucked straight out of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, I know I keep bringing that up a lot, but it's a scene that's just like, especially like when she starts like floating, convulsing. Like, that's literally one of the most famous deaths from the first Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's one that's just like, it's done well here, and especially like Scott Derrickson is great at elevating that stuff. So.
And I don't think you're wrong for continually bringing up Nightmare on Elm Street. Much of the conversation about this movie has been about its ties to Nightmare on Elm Street. I wish I could partake in that conversation, but I have not.
I wonder if that sways my opinion on the movie, because I know
maybe
that's a good question.
It's possible, and I have some things to say about that once we get to the end of the movie and kind of are wrapping up.
I do want to go to like the whole lore of it all.
Okay, should we talk about the mother thing? Is that what we're going to talk about?
Because I mentioned it earlier. Like,
I was gonna.
What were you talking about?
I was gonna talk about like the reason, like how they were gonna appease not appease him, but like strip him of his power.
Yeah.
Which I kind of had gripes with. It was he feeds off the fear of the kids, essentially.
Again, very Freddy Krueger.
Very Freddy Krueger.
Also very Pennywise in a way.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Kind of, but like it's more like
which is kind of where the similarities, where I had gripes with the similarities to other characters, because it's that point of the movie where you have to explain why he has the power, and like, oh, he feeds off the fear of the kid. It just sounds kind of corny to me.
I get that.
Yeah.
When I was watching it, I feel like maybe I just didn't pick up on it, but I thought that the reason that they had to get the kids out of the ice was to empower the kids to confront the grabber.
I guess that's like kind of implied, but
I think that's what it is, and I think that also ties into what I came away with the movie thinking, that it was about generational trauma. That's what this movie's dealing with. That's what it's about. This is about all these characters working through their past, whether it be events from their life and their events from their parents' life, how all of those come together to create these kind of sad people, each with their own vices. These kids are slaves to fear, almost, and bringing them up out of the ice gives them the chance to confront the grabber. The grabber just felt like the embodiment of all of the bad memories and all of the bad experiences that do physically affect people, like just the traumas. And that's what I thought the movie was about. And I think a lot of the things that work, that some people think that it doesn't work for me when I fit it into that.
Like, what are some other ones? Like, what are some other ones? When you say like stuff that doesn't work for you, what are you talking about?
Well, stuff that doesn't work for you, I'm talking about the mother. The plot with the mother,
that's actually,
I think works really well for me.
That's actually not true.
Really? Okay, so
yeah,
we do talk about these movies before going on the podcast, and
it was it was something that I had to process. Okay. When I first walked out of the theater, I was like, did we really need to know that? It's well executed scene, but I was also like, I thought about events of the first movie and the fact that they showed that, and part of me was like, did they take away from some of it?
Mm-hmm.
So for context,
and part of me still does
give the context for this,
and part of me still does. They make a bunch of choices that make the world that they live in feel a lot smaller. Yeah. Which now that I've sat on it more, I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it, and it's something that's just like, I feel like it helps the dad more so than it does the kids. Where it's just like he can't live with himself because he thinks his wife hung himself, which spiraled him down. But there's also the other side of it that's just like, Finney gets kidnapped by the grabber, but it's just like, because they add that, he's not the first one in his family to come in contact with him, which I was like, Not so sure about it.
Yeah, so let's briefly discuss the context behind the scene, because I don't know if we have yet. Basically, they have the person on watch making sure that she doesn't get up. When this happens, it's Ernesto that's watching her. She gets up, he pushes her down so that she's not sleepwalking, but she's still asleep and she's still having prophetic dreams, except her dreams, instead of taking place in the location that she is, are taking place at her home. She watches as her mother has a dream. She dreams about the paperboy from the first movie, which I thought confused the timeline a little bit, but I'll get into that later. She dreams about the paperboy from the first one, who has, at this point, already gone missing. She gets up to go to where she sees where she is in her dream. She finds him. She gets kidnapped by the grabber. Gwen is there in her dream. Watching this, she's ushered into the back of the truck by the dream grabber, and they go in the back of the truck with her mother, and we see the grabber hanging her mother. And we see that the grabber was actually the one that killed her, even though everyone had assumed since the first movie that she had actually killed herself.
Yeah.
That's the context for the scene. I think it works excellently. I'm interested to hear what you think.
It's well executed. It's one that I'm still like, I don't know if I'm on board for it.
I think it works well in tandem with the ending. It just I think all it does is it makes them killing the grabber in the second movie a lot more satisfying.
A little bit.
But for anything else, yeah, I'm kind of.
And there's a side to it that's just like, sure, it does make sense. It is well executed, but it's one that's just like, did we need that?
Okay, allow me to explain my viewpoint on why this scene is absolutely essential to the functioning of the movie.
Let's hear it.
Oh boy.
Okay, so basically throughout all of the first movie, their father is completely incapable of listening to Gwen because Gwen's dreams are the very thing that in his mind drove his wife and her mother to insanity and to the brink of suicide, right? To the point of killing herself. Gwen has grown up with the notion that the dreams that she's having are that same thing that drove her mother to suicide. She assumes that because her mother was driven to suicide by these dreams, that she should be as well. And she is. She is immediately put on the side of them being a bad thing, about them being a burden to her. There's a scene in the movie where she has her dream, she's confronted by these scary children, and she's screaming, terrified at Finney, saying, I feel like I'm going insane. She is being negatively impacted not only by these dreams, but by the connotation that they come up with of being led down this path of insanity, eventually ending in suicide. She knows, at least from her point of view, that she is doomed because she is having those dreams. Understanding that it in fact wasn't those dreams that killed her mother, and it was in fact this other thing, lets her believe that her dreams can be useful, and soon after that, she discovers the power that she has within her own dreams to impact the grabber, who has been essentially controlling the narrative for her. The narrative of her mother's death has been controlling her life because such a big part of it is through the dreams, and understanding that it's actually, she doesn't need to be under the control of what we learn is the grabber, allows her to end up defeating him in her own dream. I think that's incredibly powerful and incredibly important, not just to the father, who will later have an emotional reckoning when confronted with that fact, but to Gwen as a character, to understand that this thing that she is going through, that has been painted all of her life as the thing that will kill her, doesn't have to be that, and she can still live. Her days aren't numbered just because she happens to have the gift of prophecy. I think it's incredibly powerful and incredibly, incredibly important.
Cool.
So that's that sequence. We get some insight on the mother and her story. We are starting to move into the third act where we're finding the kids. The grabber actually attacks Armando in the dream, which is the first we learn that the grabber can impact people other than Gwen in her dreams. He kind of attacks other people when she's being attacked in the kitchen, but now we see him completely unrelated to Gwen actively pushing Armando into the frozen lake, which, if you know anything about frozen lakes, you know that that's almost a death sentence. Armando escapes with not even a scratch. They pull him out, and his toes aren't even frostbitten.
I thought it was funny when he was saying, "I felt a feeling."
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was real Jeff the Killer happening.
Really,
And so around this point, their father shows up. Basically, he, having heard that the camp was completely snowed in, calls in a favor from some guy who runs a snowplow company. They are essentially plow the road all the way to the camp, which allows them the opportunity to leave. Gwen insists that they stay, which is where she has a big confrontation with both Finney and their father about their traumas and about what they're doing to cope with it and how unhealthy they are. It's where she literally tells Finney, "You are addicted to weed. It's really, really bad for you." And later, his weed is confiscated by Armando. Because, and I quote, "It's not even the good shit." They eventually decide to stay and go to the lake to dig up the remaining kids and fight the grabber. Gwen purposefully slips into a dream world in order to basically to spawn the grabber. Now she knows because of the mother scene, because she has basically found the ability to manipulate her dreams in such a way.
she's come lucid in a way.
Yeah, she's become lucid of her dreams. She explodes the phone booth in her dream to attack the grabber in a previous scene. So, like, she kind of has some power. So now she essentially spawns him to allow for this final confrontation between all of our characters and the grabber, who, as it turns out, very good ice skater.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, huge icy lake fight happening. There's a scene that I found particularly powerful in which the grabber attacks Finney, and Finney is on the ground, kind of like writhing around in the grabber's grip. And he kind of figures out where the grabber is in the dream world and kicks him off of him. But he's like, we get to see what it looks like in the real world, and he's literally kicking nothing.
Like he's invisible.
He's invisible
the
in the real
invisible
world.
man.
Yeah, he's invisible in the real world. We can only see him in the dream world, and he's kicking nothing. And he's like literally the idea of his trauma. That's who he's fighting. Like, that's what it looks like in the real world. He's beating up on
It's
an invisible
visualized
guy.
so good.
Yeah, it's really, really incredible. I don't even know how they did that. And yeah, we learn that the injuries that she has in the dream manifest on her in real life. She gets nicked by an axe and her arm gushes out in blood.
She walks it off like a champ.
Yeah, I know.
though.
She walks it off like a pro.
Yeah, dude, she's a trooper.
Yeah.
But to be fair, that's also kind of how camp medicine works. Like, oh, you were stabbed in the arm with an axe. Walk it off.
Yeah, it's like it's like the school nurses that give you an ice pack for every inconvenience.
Exactly. Ice pack, the magical ice pack. There's actually a question that's asked in the movie, which is like, what happens if you die in the dream? And Gwen's like, well, you wake up. And he's like, I don't know, let's see. Let's figure it out. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So I think it's kind of fun. It's like, we don't actually know the stakes, but we kind of assume that because if we defeat the grabber here, he loses his power and he doesn't come back, that if he defeats us, then we lose our power and we don't come back, you know?
Makes sense.
And all of this is happening while they're digging up the kids. There's a scene which, like, if they get all three kids up at the same time, then the grabber loses his power. And it's like, there's this weird scene in which one of the kids goes back into the lake and the father jumps in to grab it, which is an awful idea, by the way.
Yeah.
Never jump into a frozen lake.
To be fair, he seemed pretty fine afterwards.
Yeah, he seemed
Better than Armando.
fine.
That's one of the issues. Like,
It's the alcohol.
one of
It's the alcohol.
It's the alcohol. One of the only issues that I actually had with this movie was that it does not treat frozen water with any sort of urgency. Like, you're dead. Like, there's a reason that's so powerful.
I mean, for
Yeah.
Pete's sake, Gwen's in there for like 5 minutes.
Well, but Gwen's in there in the
dream world.
In the dream, which is like
Yeah.
why she's able to get the kids up quick enough to not die. He still should be frostbitten in every part of his
it did
body.
tempt me to do that thing when you try to hold your breath when a movie character's underwater, see if you can beat them.
Yeah, do that for Avatar 2.
Yeah.
That is literally, there's an 8-minute underwater scene in that movie.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah, so, like, you know, he's underwater. Gwen's helping him in the dream world to bring the kids up. The kids drag the grabber back under the water. I thought it was weird because Gwen's, like, holding an axe. She has every opportunity to just cut him up, and she doesn't, to let the kids drag him into the icy deep. and be dragged back down to the cold hell that he deserves. And thusly, the movie ends.
Terminator style. He gets frozen in the lake.
Yeah, he dies
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger style.
Or Freddy Krueger. Yeah, whichever.
Not Pennywise style.
No, definitely
they
not.
don't insult him.
No,
to
he
kill
doesn't turn. He doesn't turn into a puddle.
They don't
don't
lower
worry.
his self-esteem.
him.
But yeah, I guess final thoughts on Black Phone 2?
I thought it was fantastic.
I mean, should we talk about the scene afterwards, like the resolution? Like,
yeah, the
I thought
Denverman. Let's go for it.
Beautiful.
Oh, the Robin
I thought it
says
was
the
beautiful. I
Robin
almost
says
cried.
hi thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great. There's a lot
yeah.
of great moments. Like the Robin says hi, and then when Gwen confronts Finney about smoking.
Right. There's basically this scene at the end where there's a call on the black phone. Finney and Gwen are walking right next to the phone booth. The phone starts ringing.
And only Gwen can hear it.
So Finney can't hear it. So he's done with the phone essentially. But Gwen can hear it. She goes on. It's her mother telling her how proud she is of her and how much she misses her.
And how it's beautiful up here. And
Right. It's great. And
Yeah.
Robin says hi to Finney, and it suggests that the black phone has been purified in some sense. It's no longer an object of terror. It's an object of hope. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful ending scene, and I think also ties into the theme of generational trauma, that she has killed it. She sees her mother not as the thing that has spelled her doom, but now as this beacon of hope, this idea that her time left is not that bad. She has a lot of it.
Gwen literally asks, like, is it a curse? Like,
Mhm.
referring to
Yeah,
the
is it
thing.
a curse? Like,
Is it a curse?
Is it a
And-
curse? Yeah.
And the mother, like, she suggests no, it's not.
No,
she
never was.
suggests it's a blessing, actually. Yeah.
It's we call it the gift of prophecy for a reason. Yeah, so there, and then there's the ending scene. The movie ends on them leaving the camp and their father and Finney agreeing that Ernesto is a good partner for Gwen. And it's like they were kind of not so sure about it at the beginning, but now they're
Yeah.
Sure.
A very guy thing to do,
very like,
or a very dad thing to do.
and also like his brother or Finney doesn't want her going to the Duran Duran concert because it's a date and he doesn't want her to go on a date, I guess. Duran Duran, by the way, second straight movie after Depeche Mode in the last one
Yeah, Tron Ares.
to feature a band that made their debut in 1981.
And also, if you speaking of niche internet culture, like the scene when before before Finn smokes the weed, he listens on the TV. There's this one band that was very
Oh yeah, I
popular
remember
among
you
the
were
internet.
mentioning this one. Yeah.
It's called Fex, and it's called the most mysterious song in the internet. It was called that for a long time, and then they figured it out like just last year, I think.
Yeah, it
And
was
the
lost
fact
for a
that-
very long time.
The fact that they included it in this movie for people like me who
Mhm.
spend way too much time online, and it's
Well, I think the time
really
frame
like
is
that.
the time frame's around the right for him to be like listening to that song.
yeah.
Right?
This is an alternate timeline where they didn't lose the song,
right.
so it's very hopeful.
That's the one thing that's different from this movie to the last. Forget the afterlife, forget the black phone. The one thing that's different is that German band did not lose their recording of that song.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought the movie was excellent. And I think that now that it's over, we should probably talk a little bit more about Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, I guess for me, even like that kind of does tie into my final thoughts on the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love A Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy Krueger is my favorite horror icon. It's the first horror movie I ever saw. It's the first horror franchise I saw in its entirety. I also love the original Black Phone. It's a movie that I think is really good. I understand like not everyone loves it, but it's one that's just like I love it because of how simplistic it is. And inherently when a sequel to that movie exists, I'm immediately going to raise an eyebrow. And I feel like for the movie that we got, I feel like there's a lot of things that are really well done. I think borrowed from maybe some of the best in terms of like some of the things that even you were praising. Everything you said that you loved about it, I agree with. Like, it's not that I disagree with you and like, oh, like you like this thing, but I think it sucks. I don't. I think it's a good movie. I think it's a really solid horror film. Scott Derrickson's great with directing. The cast is great. I think if you're gonna pull, I think if you're gonna pull inspiration, Nightmare on Elm Street's the way to do it. Especially the thing with the black, like the inherent use of the black phone. But it's one that's just like maybe it's because of everything I've seen prior to it and my thoughts on the original Black Phone as well as the influences that it pulled from. didn't wow me nearly on the level that I saw some people, and I didn't hate it on the level that some people who rallied the first one were on that same level. So it's like, I think it's good. I think it's a good horror film. Didn't blow me away. Probably not going to end up in my top 10 of the year. Definitely not in my top 10 of the year. But it's one that I think it's really solid. And the best thing I will say about it is the song choice they did for the first trailer. They played Rooster by Alice in Chains, and I was like, finally, we're bringing that kind of music back. So yeah, great.
A lot of good songs back.
Yeah, so yeah, great stuff. Great
No
character.
Depeche Mode.
Yeah, no Depeche Mode.
I didn't feel anything. There was no Depeche Mode.
Yeah, I mean, great character work. I mean, the two leads are great. Ethan Hawke is great as the grabber. We didn't see enough of him, though. That is one thing I will say. We did not see enough of the grabber. But, good, solid horror movie. Didn't wow me.
I will say, from my limited viewpoint of having only seen a few movies that came out this year, this is definitely in the top of what I've seen. I will say, I like how throughout this entire discussion, we didn't mention Barbara or Kenneth once.
Oh my god, I hate Barbara. I hated Barbara.
Basically, Barbara.
She's the devil. Like,
she's the stereotypical, like, 80s Christian.
Barbara's entire character is having a
evangelical.
stick up her ass about every single thing. She
oh my
does,
god, it reminded me of my chemistry teacher.
And then
You didn't put your name on your
Kenneth was
paper.
just
You're the
there. You got
devil.
Kenneth was entirely pedestrian to the movie, but
Poor Kenneth.
yeah,
Poor
Barbara.
Kenneth.
Barbara really was like, people call her Barb. She's I don't like Barb. She doesn't like the fuck word, which is used quite often on the holy Christian premises.
Yeah.
And she is constantly pointing at Gwen and saying that she's the devil. She's got the devil in her.
Yeah, she got the devil in her.
And she's not Southern. She's from Colorado. But yeah, I think I really like this movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I think that come the end of the year, you can 100% expect it to be on my top 10.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a problem necessarily that the movie is so derivative of Nightmare on Elm Street.
I didn't say it was a problem. It's just something that's just like, it loses the masterpiece factor that I feel like you had. That it's just like, you were so impressed by that stuff, and you're just like, it's well done.
Well, I think the
And there
thing
we go.
is,
I'm just like, it's well done, but that's all I have to say about it.
I think it's good that we have movies like that are willing to take inspiration from other films. We had a whole wave of movies that are complete knockoffs of Halloween. Friday the 13th might be one of the most high-profile rip-off movies of all time. Maybe the character of Jason Voorhees being completely ripped off from Michael Myers. Like, I don't think it's important that every single franchise brings something entirely new in terms of style to its own like franchise. I think it's okay that we have entries of franchises that are willing to do the same thing as other movies, because there are people like me who haven't seen those movies but now know that because I like that movie so much, I might like Nightmare on Elm Street even more, for having done that same thing. Some people say better, some people say this, like, whatever. People say that it's better and they're doing the same thing. I might like that movie even more. I'll be even more tempted to give it a watch. And it's just like,
I'd be very sad if you don't.
I think horror franchises tend to lose sight of what made them special in favor of having a character in them that makes it that movie. Friday the 13th is a Friday the 13th movie based on some style it has, or is it based on the fact that Jason Voorhees is in it? I think same for Nightmare on Elm Street and same for Halloween. It's the reason that both Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th tried to do new reboot series in the 2000s and fell completely on their faces. Because and I haven't seen either of those movies. I'm going entirely based on what I've heard people say, but they don't recapture the style of the original as much as they do recapture a character from the original. And I don't think that's as exciting to a lot of people as we'd like to believe. So I think that when we have movies like Black Phone 2 that reignite that style, we end up, I think, either recapturing what made it special and rediscovering our love for that classic, or introducing people who haven't seen the classic to the classic, and also doing the thing that classic did really, really, really well for a modern audience. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it's probably an actively good thing.
I guess that's for me. I've seen it before. That's why.
Fair enough.
Okay, thanks for that.
You're welcome. I just I think it's good.
Yeah, I was just saying like it didn't have the wow factor to me. Just
No,
because
fair enough, and it's just
that was it.
no.
That was all I said.
I thank you.
Yeah.
I am building off of that by saying that
I don't know.
it has a wow factor for a modern audience in the same way that A Nightmare on Elm Street had a wow factor for the audiences back when it came out.
Gotcha.
That's what it's trying to recapture. Maybe if you've seen Nightmare on Elm Street, or especially if you didn't like Nightmare on Elm Street and what it was trying to do, you might not find this movie as great or as good, or I mean, I didn't find it groundbreaking, but I found it very well done. But yeah, it certainly has a style, and it's certainly mooching that style off of an older movie.
Yeah.
No one is denying that. Yeah, so ratings. What do we think?
I'd say 6.7 out of 7.1.
What?
We're making up our own scales here. So
We have no scales.
yeah.
Okay.
We can use Letterboxd.
For me, 3.5 out of 5. For me. I think it's
me-
I think it's solid. Like
Fair enough. Yeah.
I think it's a solid movie, but it's one that's just like, as I've said before, like I don't fully rank it as high. It's just like, especially I don't think it's on the tier of the first one, but that's just me. But
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think it's a good, well done, well executed horror film from Scott Derrickson. If they do decide to continue this franchise, I mean, with the way they ended it, I will also be very skeptical. But at the same time, they did it a second time in a way that worked. But it's also one that I just looked at it as like well done. Like I don't get scared by a ton of movies, so like a lot of the scares didn't work for me. And it was one that's just like I was watching a cover of like it was just like it was wearing influences on its sleeve.
How would they do a threequel?
They can't.
I hope
they
they-
can't.
yeah.
They haven't announced one yet.
Yeah, I mean the movie's killing it at the box office right now.
Yeah, Blumhouse has been. I don't like saying that Blumhouse has been on a down year because very rarely does Blumhouse have an up year. Blumhouse's model has always been they make the worst movies of the year, but they also make the best movies of the year.
Yeah.
They just produce a lot of things for very little money so that they
Yeah.
all
Let's see
make
what sticks.
Every single year they will put out the best in the world. Like literally, if you go back to 2020, my favorite movie of that year was The Invisible Man. My least favorite movie that year was Fantasy Island, both from Blumhouse.
Right.
Every single year they do that.
They do that every year. And this year, I think it's just been more high profile, their failures. Like,
Yeah.
people just know what they're putting out a little bit more. They have a little bit more awareness. And I have a whole spiel as to why that is, but I'm not going to get into it now.
Maybe we could do a separate podcast on that.
We should do a separate podcast about Blumhouse.
Yeah, about Blumhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, let's put that on the list. Let us know in the comments if you want to see that. By the way, guys, if you comment and you say something, if you have like a question for us, we will answer it on the next episode of the Weekly Spoiler Review. Sorry for that.
Yeah. Sorry, ad break.
Ad break. No, I think Blumhouse has been on a high profile down year. Their movies aren't making money and they're not getting critically acclaimed. I think this movie, while not necessarily garnering critical acclaim, has certainly gotten money. It's doing really well. It just grossed $27 million in its opening weekend domestic.
Yeah, 42 worldwide. The movie cost $30 million to make.
Yeah,
that's
it's
really good
great.
start.
Very good.
Great
Yeah.
start.
And horror this year has been grossing more at the box office than it ever has. You know,
Yeah.
just some really crazy numbers coming from horror. And this is Blumhouse's first big hit of the year. I myself give it a 4.5, and I hope they don't make a Black Phone 3. Because if they do, I'm going to be very, very concerned about it.
Yeah, it's just like how many times are you gonna bring the grabber back to kill him? Because like if you've seen
the ice.
if you've seen the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, like you, especially if you stuck around 4 through 6, it wears on you for a little bit.
Yeah.
Of like a dream demon being killed over and over and over again. So
Right.
it's just like if they do that with the grabber, I really like. I will say this though. As much as I bring up A Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't think that the grabber is a knockoff of Freddy Krueger. I think there's enough to him that it's just like I think there's enough to him that I mean, obviously, if you've seen A Nightmare on Elm Street, then you know that like Freddy Krueger has a much more sadistic backstory, and it's something that's just like the way they play with dreams. Well, similar. There's some ways that I think they do it a little bit differently, and especially given the first movie and the way The Mask and Ethan Hawke's presented, I feel like there's something more to him.
I would say,
and I think I would rank the grab. I would put the grabber up as a modern or horror icon next to like other ones as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd argue that The Grabber isn't as much its own thing as it's more an amalgam of several different horror icons wrapped into one. Because all the examples that I gave before with I Have No Mouth, and I Must Scream, and Pennywise, and of course Freddy Krueger, and the killers with masks and stuff like that. It's, I guess you can call it its own thing, but and I really love the Grabber as as a character, but no, I think it's just a mix of different sources.
Yeah, and I think it says something about Scott Derrickson. A movie this derivative, in essence, can only work with a deep love and a deep respect for the genre in the same way that Scream worked in 1996 because Wes Craven has such a deep love and a deep respect for the genre. And you can tell that Scott Derrickson does have a deep love and a deep respect for the genre. And he likes Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't think he's doing it any slight,
Yeah.
So yeah, I for sure like the Grabber's an amalgam. And how many times can you keep bringing him back? I don't know. I think the point at which Scott Derrickson stops directing these movies is the point at which I check out of them,
Yeah.
And there might not be any more. I hope there's no more. I would doubt them if there were any more. But certainly if Scott Derrickson ever leaves the franchise, it's over for me. I'm not excited for it anymore.
Yeah. And it's one for me that's just like I would be the guy that chooses to live in the realm to where the Black Phone was a one and done. But also I'm not mad at this movie's existence either. It's one that's just like maybe not such the greatest compliment, at least for me as someone who really loves the original Black Phone. And then it's like it's one for me that's why I give it a 3.5. I'm like, it's a really good horror film. As a sequel, there's some things that I'm a little bit mixed on, and then as a film, it borrows from the best, at least in my mind. So it's one that's just like, I think it's solid.
Would you say this was more definitive of a wrap up than the first movie?
I mean, they both kind of end the same.
Yeah,
they really do.
With killing the Grabber, to where it's like they kill the Grabber at the end of the first movie. This one, they bring him back in a different way. Obviously, like exploring the lore of what the Black Phone can do. And this one that's just like, and then they kill him off again. So it's like, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with this movie existing. It doesn't make it. I don't think it's one that's inferior to the original, but it's also one that's just like, I will always rank the original above.
So then that's the thing that kind of worries me in terms of threequels and stuff like that. If the whole point is just bring him back through some means that we could never have guessed before, then what's stopping Scott Derrickson,
Yeah.
or whoever else in bringing back the Grabber in any number of different ways? So that's kind of what I'm worried about, because the way both movies ended, of course, they didn't like leave any trace of, there is going to be some different, but that's kind of the thing. What if that's what any future Black Phone movies are just gonna do?
Right.
So they can bring him back however they want, and that's kind of what worries me. But
yeah, for sure.
At the same time, it's an equal chance of it's gonna stop here.
Right.
That's what I'm hoping.
And this movie ends in the same way as the first, with the same potential conceit to bring him back as the first.
Yeah.
But what's important to me about this movie, and what's important to me about a horror sequel, especially a sequel to a movie like The Black Phone, is that this movie is not bullshit. This movie has a story to tell, it has something to say, and that's, in my opinion, what's most important to making a movie like this work. And so I think it does work, and I think it's excellent. And yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Letterboxd. Follow me on Letterboxd. I'm THRNV. I post reviews for all sorts of things, all sorts of movies. I just posted a review of After the Hunt, the new Luca Guadagnino movie. So if you're interested to hear my thoughts about that, check it out.
Yeah, my letterbox is MJ Spiegel, all lowercase, and sorry, not all capitalized. That'd have been really scary. But it's one I've not published a review of Black Phone 2 as of yet. After this episode goes up, there most certainly will be one on there, and there's also ones that if you want to read some of my other reviews, you're more than welcome to.
And I don't have a letterbox.
Comment below, and we will convince Logan Davila to get a letterbox. Davila.
Yeah.
That's all.
Cue outro.
Yeah, cue outro. Roll credits.
Roll credits. Sweet dreams.
All right, see you on the next one.